I'm going to be ranking non-playable WoW races based on which I think should be playable. And so I've got a bunch of non-playable WoW races here, and I'm going to rank them from S to D on whether or not I think they should definitely be in the game as a playable race, or whether they should just stay as a non-playable race. And then, you know, everything in between, which I'll make judgments and whatever for. So let's begin with an interesting one. Murlocs. And Murlocs to me they're interesting because I think they would be a lot of fun to be a playable race. I always picture them having like crab mounts for some reason. I think they actually do ride crabs in WoW, which is probably why I think that. But I think that'd be a lot of fun. We have Murloc casters, we have Murloc hunters and warriors. Like, we have a lot of different types of Murlocs as well. I think it just comes down to, does it feel like they would blend in with all the other playable races? Like how, you know what I mean? Because it's like, when you think of a Murloc, you just think of them being like, you know, I don't think of them. I guess there's like Sir Finley. That's probably the most, I guess, like, educated of the Murlocs. Like, I don't know. It's just, they feel very, like, animalistic still, right? Like they're just like, blah, blah, blah. I keep making that noise because that's what I think of. So I personally would put them in the A tier in terms of just like wanting to have fun, but I think they belong in the B tier because of those problems. You know what I mean? So I mean, there's probably other issues as well, but to me, it comes down to, you know, are we going to be able to like have diplomacy with the Murlocs, right? Are we gonna like bring the Murlocs in, be like, hey, what's up? Is this like a thing where maybe there's a new subset of Murlocs that have like evolved and they're more like Sir Finley and they can talk and things like that? Like, right, old chap, right? Are they like British? I have no idea. I know that the Jinyu are kind of like a different form of Murloc. I remember learning about that. I believe they're on this list, so I'll talk about that later. But I'm going to put him in the B tier. Then we have Tuskar. That's an S tier. I mean, that's a home run. Tuskar, I think, is one of the most demanded playable races. I would love to play a Tuskar. I think their racials would revolve around like fishing and just, you know, different types of fishing. And I would love to be a Tuskar. I don't know. To me, they're kind of on par with like Tauren and Pandas. Like, that's kind of their vibe. Probably a little more Panda than Tauren, but Tuskar just makes sense, man. You got the model in there. They've been in the game a long time. They've been there. They've been in Wrath, or they've been in the game since Wrath, and then they've reappeared in Dragonflight. Like, it's, come on. Then we have the Vrykul. And Vrykul, I think, are pretty cool. They're pretty Vrykul. Sorry. I like Vrykul, and I wouldn't mind if they were a playable race, but I don't like them as much as Tuskar, but I do think they make more sense than Murlocs, but not by much. But I'm gonna put them in the A tier. I think they're an A tier for me. I mean, I would probably make a Vrykul, especially if I could make like a Vrykul warrior. I think that would be pretty sick. I don't know. A lot of people really love Vrykul, but to me, I've always just kind of been like, yeah, they're cool, but I like a lot of other stuff more. So I'm gonna put them in the A tier. Then we have ogres, and this is another S tier for me. I think ogres are one that, I mean, listen, they've been talked about as a playable race since vanilla World of Warcraft, right? Like, all the way back, they were talking about making playable ogres. We have a lot of ogre characters. We've had a lot of ogre characters over the years. I feel like they've got all the resources they need in order to make playable ogres, but at the same time, like, maybe there's some stuff with armor that's a problem. I mean, they are really big, right? Like, ogres are pretty massive, but I think if you're talking about races that aren't playable that should be playable, ogres have to be at the top, like, without a doubt. And I think a lot of people like ogres. I mean, we even have characters like Rexar, where he's half orc, half ogre, right? So we kind of have some tie-ins with that. Maybe we could even have like the half orc, half ogre race. That would actually be pretty sick, making like Rexar type characters. So I think you put ogres in the S tier. Then we have the Drogbar. The Drogbar are, I mean, when I look it up here on the WoW wiki, it says Drogbar are a shamanistic humanoid species that dwell in the infinite caverns deep within High Mountain. The brutish appearance can hide their cleverness. Having once been the slaves of Deathwing himself, Drogbar have long lived relatively in peace with the High Mountain Tauren. So I mean, I think you could make a case for the Drogbar. I think they've got enough history here. They could definitely be shamans, probably mages or warlocks. I mean, there's definitely some like corrupted Drogbar dudes, warriors. I would probably, you know what, they're kind of just like an evolved form of Trogs, you know. I would actually put them in the A tier. I would play a Drogbar. I don't know how popular Drogbar would be, which I think is one of the reasons they wouldn't do it. I think they would probably be like, not many people would play Drogbar. And that sucks because I love Drogbar. But I think that's one of the reasons, man. I think they just wouldn't do it because they know it wouldn't be as popular as a lot of the other races. So I would still love the Drogbar. So next up, we have Centaur. I actually think Centaur would be a really interesting race to add to playability, because we had the Dragonflight Centaurs, so we kind of have this whole tie-in with the Centaurs now, where it would make a lot of sense, and we know a lot more about Centaurs, and they're a lot friendlier than they were like back in the day, right? Although I guess it depends, right? When you were in Desolus, you made friends with some of the Centaur, depending on who you sided with and killed. I would actually put them in the S tier. And I think I would do it because I think it'd be a lot of fun to have a different type of race to play. You know what I mean? Like, they're essentially a horse person. So you would have, instead of like having mounts, you would just kind of like back in the day where the Tauren used to have the plains running ability, right? You could have like that type of thing where you just run really fast. Although it would probably be trickier to fly. Like, how do you put a Centaur on a flying mount? That would be kind of weird. So they're probably not going to do it because of that. There's honestly a lot of logistical problems. And then even like armor and stuff. Although I guess you'd only have to do like your upper body for the armor, right? Because your lower body would just be maybe customizable in different ways. The same way you could customize dragon flying and like skins and stuff like that. But I think for the logistics, I might bump it down to an A, because I don't think Blizzard would actually do that because it's a little too much work. But I don't know. I still think Centaur would be a lot of fun to have as a playable race, even if, you know, flying mounts or something would not be great. I mean, they would have druids, right? You go flight form or something, or maybe they have some type of special flying. I'm gonna put them at the top of the A tier. Then we have the Hosen, and I think Hosen are cool, and they're kind of fun. I'm gonna put them in the B tier. I think Hosen would be fun, but okay, I'm gonna look up Hosen right now and see. Monkey-like race that lives in Pandaria, various islands of the Great Sea, short-lived, immature, passionate, playful race. Mostly a wild, independent race, hostile to any who wander into their hunting grounds. So honestly, now reading that, I almost think I put him in the C tier, because when I read something like a wild and independent race, that doesn't feel like somebody that would join the Horde or the Alliance. You know what I mean? Like, they do what they do. They're away from everyone, doing their own thing. And that's just what they are, right? Like, so I think from a thematic perspective, it doesn't really make sense. I think I'd put it in C tier still, because I would probably make a Hosen if it became a thing, but I don't think it would be a thing, and it probably doesn't thematically make sense. So I'll put it in the C tier. I think that makes sense. Next up, we have the Broken. And I've seen a lot of people talk about wanting to play the Broken or the Croakle. Croakle, is that how you say it? And I would actually play one as well. I think they are cool. I saw a lot of people mentioning that they wish the Broken took the place of the Lightforged Draenei. And I agree with that. I feel like Lightforged Draenei are just kind of like, they're kind of whatever. I'm not I'm not a big fan. I would definitely rather have a Broken, but the fact that they chose the Lightforged Draenei, I think, makes it seem like they're not going to make the Broken playable. But at the same time, I feel like they still probably could. I'm going to put it in the B tier. I think Broken in the B tier. It starts with a B. That also makes sense. It's got to be. I don't know a whole bunch of lore behind the Broken on whether or not it would make sense for them to join the Alliance or something like that, but I don't know. I just from a is it cool perspective, I would say it's cool, but again, the fact that they didn't add him in already when they've had some opportunities doesn't bode well for it. Then we have the Tonka, and I think I might put them in the S tier. The Tonka, to me, actually makes sense that they could be a playable race, and especially we're about to go into the third World Soul Saga, and we're going back to Northrend, right? And I was thinking what races could be playable. Obviously, Tuskar is the one that I hope, but Tonka would actually make sense, right? I mean, we already have Taran and High Mountain Taran, so it's kind of it does get a little redundant. So it makes me think, like, would they actually add a third Taran-esque creature? Now that I mentioned that, I think I might bump them down to the A tier. I like Tonka. I think Tonka are cool. They're kind of like Buffalo Taran, which I actually like. I like Buffalo. I always like questing with the Tonka, and I believe there's like a few ways you can become a Tonka, right? Like a toy or some transmorphing tool or toy or whatever. I don't know. Either way, I think Tonka are neat, and I'd put them in the A tier. To me, I'd put them in the S tier, but I don't think they would add a third Taran race. I'm not gonna lie. Then we have the Niffin. And listen, I love the Niffin, man. The like weird ass Wisconsin, Minnesota creatures that smell everything and are just like, oh boy. But I gotta put them in the D tier. In terms of like races that I think are cool in WoW, Niffin would probably be in the A tier or the S tier for me. But in terms of being a playable race, I can't see a Niffin raiding. I just can't see a Niffin raiding and PvPing and stuff like that. Like it feels weird. I put him in the D tier. Naga to me kind of fall under that same umbrella that the Centaur do. So I'm gonna put him in the A tier, but I do think Naga are cool. And I'm pretty sure they did try to make Naga a playable race, kind of like ogres back in the day, and then maybe for logistical reasons it didn't work out, but I think Naga would be a lot of fun. I think it does kind of stem back to that issue of like, how do you make this work, right? Like they don't have feet, so can they wear boots? Like, how do they fit on flying mounts? How is their model gonna work with various other things in the game? Like it feels like a lot, but they have the potential to be multiple classes. They've got a lot of history, a lot of lore, a lot of big characters. Like, it would make sense. They definitely would have the ability, I think, to, you know, like ally in with the Horde of the Alliance, probably the Horde. But yeah, I mean, they were fighting with Illidan back in the day. So yeah, I'm gonna put him in the A tier. I think I'd put him on par with Centaurs, to be honest. Then we have Furbolgs. Furbolgs, there's a lot of Furbolgs that we talk to in the game that are just like really cool, really chill. I mean, we've had Furbolgs in the game since Vanilla WoW, with, you know, Timbermaw Hold and various other Furbolgs. But the problem is they're always getting cursed. So maybe they somehow figure out a way to like avoid getting cursed. I mean, we even have a lot of the new Furbolg models that are really cool. They got shamans, we got warriors. Like they could play a lot of the different classes. I would actually really like furbolgs to be a playable race. I would probably put them at the top of B tier actually, but it's another thing where I don't think they would do it, and I think they would probably do that thing where they're like they're a little like they just don't make enough sense for us to make into a playable race compared to a lot of the more like humanoid-esque creatures and stuff that they like to do. But if I personally was like picking and choosing whether furbolgs were going to be a playable race, I would make them a playable race. So you know what? Maybe I would put them in the A tier. I'm going to do it. Furbolgs in the A tier. Screw it. I talked myself into it. Kobolds. Kobolds. I mean, we did just have the War Within with a lot of kobold stuff, so I could kind of see it a bit more than I used to, because it used to just be like they were probably on par with the Niffin, right? But I'd probably put him in the C tier. I still can't really see it. See it? Get? I put him in the C tier. See it? I think it's kind of with the Hosen. I think it's like I could kind of see it, but not really. And yeah, I think it's C tier. Then we have the Quillbore. I'm not gonna lie, I'd put Quillbore in the B tier. I've always really liked Quillbore. I think they're cool. But again, kind of like Murlocs, it's like we've been fighting the Quillbore for a while. You know what I mean? It's like, are they just gonna randomly be like, let's be friends now? So I feel like from a lore perspective, it doesn't really make that much sense. Maybe maybe they make something up where they're like, hey, the Quillbore are friends now, and we found some random Quillbores on an island that are really nice. Like, I don't know, maybe, but I don't think they would do that. But I would love to be a Quillbore. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm gonna put them in the B tier. Then we have the Gnolls. And the Gnolls, I think the Gnolls are kind of on par with the Hosen, where even from researching pointless top 10 Gnolls, which I just made a few weeks ago, it seems like the Gnolls are just kind of, they're like chaotic barbarians. Like, you know what I mean? They're out in the forest doing their own thing. It seems like they're just territorial and violent and just, I can't see them joining up and being like, let's go defeat some raid bosses. Like, I can't see it. You know, like, to me, the Murlocs, I think, stand a chance because we have characters like Sir Finley. Like, I think when we have Sir Finley Murgleton, even if he is an outlier in the Murloc, it shows that Murlocs can get to a point of being civilized enough to like join the Alliance or the Horde and communicate and be like, greetings, friends. And there's like some Gnoll, there's very few Gnolls that can do that. Like one of them is the Darkmoon Fair Gnoll, the fortune teller guy. And he's like one of the only ones too, but yeah, I think Gnolls are just probably the C tier. Tortollan. Ooh. Tortollan's interesting because I could see it. I don't know if they do it, but I'd play a Tortollan. I'm gonna put him in the S tier. Tortollan, I think, are kind of like slightly below Tuskar for me. They're essentially Turtle Tuskar. And I love that because there's a lot of cool Tortollan in the game. I mean, there's Tortollan with spears, there's Tortollan casting spells and stuff. So, I mean, you probably could make various different classes of Tortollan. We talk to the Tortollan all the time. I mean, in the current patch for 12.1, we're talking to Tortollan. So, I mean, I could see it. I could see it happening, but I don't know if they're going to do it. But I would absolutely play a Tortollan. I'm going to put him in the S tier. And I think, even though I don't see Blizzard doing it, there's a small part of me that believes. And maybe I'm being a little too optimistic. But I would love to be a Tortollan. Then we have the Saberon, which I don't believe have we had Saberon since Draenor? Because they're added in Draenor. It says here in Midnight, Saberon are among some of the races captured by the Dominar to fight for their amusement. In Shadowlands, ruthless brigands can crash the Ember Court parties and must be defeated. BFA, some Saberon were caught in Eitrig's teleportation spell. So, I mean, we've had some reoccurring Saberons throughout World of Warcraft's expansions here, including the most recent one. This is an interesting one because I feel like there's not a whole bunch of lore with the Saberon, and it's like an opportunity where if they really wanted to, they probably could, and like create some new lore, and then we'd have like a cat race, kind of like the Khajiit in Skyrim. So I mean, I think if there's gonna be any type of animalistic creature race added, I could definitely see Saberons being added to the game. In fact, I think I might just put them in S tier. I think Blizzard, I could see Blizzard putting Saberon in the game. In fact, I could see them putting Saberon in the game over Tortollan. I'm not even gonna lie. I think they could, and I think they would. I do think Ogres and Tuskar are above them, but I do think there's a chance above Tortollan. Then we have the Amani Trolls, which a lot of people just say Forest Trolls, but I would definitely, I could see them putting Amani Trolls in. I mean, I'm going to put it in the S tier. I mean, I would probably make it Amani Troll. I think the Amani Trolls are cool. I feel like that's after everything. I can't talk. After every single thing that I like, I go, it's cool. But this would fit the Blizzard pipeline the most, I would say, because I mean we've had dwarves, and then we had dark iron dwarves, and then we had earthen, essentially like rock dwarves. Then we've had elves with night elves, and then blood elves, and then we've had void elves, right? So we've had trolls, Haranir, we've, you know, kind of like elf troll, and then I think we've had a lot of stuff with the Amani, right? So I could definitely see them putting the Amani into the game. In fact, I'm almost surprised that Amani trolls weren't added this expansion instead of the Haranir. But I guess Haranir was like a whole storyline and zone and everything, but I could definitely see them just being like, Amani trolls are playable. There you go. That would out of all the races on this list, if I had to make a bet on which one was going to become playable, I think that's the one I would pick. So I'm going to put Amani trolls at S tier. Then we have the Giblin, which are like the goblin, under the aquatic goblin people. I don't think they're going to make them playable. And I honestly don't even, I'm not a big Giblin fan or whatever they're called. I'm just going to put them in the D tier. I don't even like hate them, right? I think there's so many better options, and they're just kind of like whatever. But like, again, if they added one to the game, if they were like Giblin or playable today, I'd probably make one. I'd make like a Giblin rogue or something like that. So I'm going to put them in the D tier still, because I'm like, oh, whatever. Sethrak. You gotta put him in the S tier. I love Sethrak. If they just gave us Sethrak today, I would make a Sethrak. I would play one. It would be awesome to play a snake race. So many people love Sethrak, and they've had so many opportunities they could have added Sethrak to the game. They would be so popular. People, there's like, you look all over the internet. People are like, Sethrak, dude. Like, they'd probably make a bunch of money from people race changing to Sethrak, to be honest. So I'm surprised they haven't done it. I do think there's a possibility at some point in the future they do create Sethrak because of the popularity of them, kind of like Tuskar. And because, you know, they've already got the model in there. There's, I think they fit that type of the mold. I think they're kind of on par with like Volparen to me, where they would make sense to just, they'd fit into armor really well. Maybe their head not as much because it's like a snake shape, but they'd be pretty customizable with their snake heads and fangs and different tails and scales. Like, I think that would make a lot of sense. So I'm going to put them in the S tier. Then we have the Ethereals. And this is another one I've seen a lot of people talk about being like, I wish ethereals were in the game. I'm not the biggest ethereal fan. Like, I think they're okay. I wouldn't mind if they were playable, so I would put them in the A tier because I could see them being playable and I think it makes sense, but honestly, I'd rather play a Furbolg. I'm not even gonna lie. I'd rather play a Furbolg or a Drogbar, a Naga, a Vrykul. I think I'd rather play like all these. Actually, you know what? I'd probably bump Vrykul down a little bit there. I am trying to do these in order from like left to right. So yeah. Then we have the Mogu. And I've seen a few people say they want Mogu playable. I've never been a big fan of the Mogu. Like, I don't dislike them, but apparently they share a rig with the Draenei, making it decently likely that it'd be possible. Because, you know, whenever something shares the skeleton rig with another playable race, it obviously, I think, bumps it up on the scale of becoming playable because it makes it a lot easier to get it done. But I'd put it in the B tier. I don't hate it. I don't think I'd play one, but I could see it happening. So I think I'm just going to put it in the B tier. Leper Gnomes. Leper Gnomes are interesting because obviously Leper Gnomes have been around for a long time, but like we have Mecha Gnomes and normal Gnomes. I'm going to look this up. Yeah, like Leper Gnomes are just constantly suffering from disease. So like, I don't see how you make them playable. I would like to play as a Leper Gnome just because it's funny, right? You're just like a green gnome, like, oh, but like, it doesn't really make sense. So I'm going to put it in the D tier. Like, they're literally just like, they're named after the disease, right? Like, they're literally like falling apart and like going, I don't know if they're going crazy, but like, I think they actually are. So like, I can't see it. I do think it'd be kind of funny to play as one though. It's like just a fun option, but I don't think they would do that. Hobgoblins. I actually think Hobgoblins would kind of make sense. Because, I mean, we've got Hobgoblin Bankers. We've seen Hobgoblins in Undermine. We've had a decent amount of just Hobgoblins in general, but at the same time, I think I'd rather have Ogres than Hobgoblins. So, I'm going to put them at the... Wait, where'd they go? Uh-oh. Did I just lose them? Where'd they go? Oh, I put them right here. Okay. I'm going to put them at the bottom of A tier. Right below Ethereals. Although, I'd rather have Murlocs still. You know what? I'm going to put them right below Murlocs. I think I'm going to put them in the B tier below Murlocs. Where it's kind of... Yeah, I don't think they're going to ever make Hobgoblins playable. I think it would make sense, but... Yeah, no, I don't think so. And then we have the Arakoa, which I uploaded 2 pictures of. So this is really just the Arakoa. I'm just going to use one of them. I would actually love the Arakoa as a playable race, but I don't think they're going to do it. I mean, it makes sense, I think, just from a lore perspective, and, you know, they can play all the classes. We've talked to them. We've had storylines with them, a lot like a lot of these other races. But I think there's just a lot of issues in terms of making sure the armor works out, probably just dealing with it probably revolves a lot around the actual model and the skeleton of the Arakoa, I think. But I'm gonna put them in the A tier. I don't know where I'd put them in the A tier. I'd probably put them above Ethereals, and I think I'd put them above Vrykul. I think they're about on par with Furbolgs to me. You know what? I'd probably put them... The more I think about it, I'm actually like, you know what? I really like Arakoa. I just moved them all the way up to the top of the A tier. I would love an Arakoa. I think I would love to just play as a weird Birdman. I think I kind of have that in my soul. I think at heart, I'm kind of a weird Birdman shaman or something. Just like, what? I do make a lot of weird bird noises. So there we go. That's my list of non-playable races that I wish were playable that make sense. So let me know what you think down in the comments section below on what you would agree or disagree with. And yeah, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. If you want some more dumb tier lists, I got a lot more of them. I'll put the playlist up. Or if you want a big way to waste your time, I also got 6+ hours of WoW creature facts, which is just 6 hours of pointless top 10s revolving around creatures like furbolgs and murlocs and stuff like that, as well as various animals and stuff. So go check that out if you really want to waste some time. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay? Okay. See ya.